Hi everybody, it's Gretchen here. Thanks for joining me tonight. We are going to make the Hexi Cards, which can be all birthday cards. Everyone has an inside card that says happy birthday that you can use or not use, depending on your needs. So we're going to start with this first one, which is the brown cardstock. The color is Saddle. I tried to put them all in order for you, so hopefully you'll be able to find it. So we've got the card, and we've got, it's not quite square, but almost square wood grain cardstock here, and a skinny strip to match that. Our dark wood grain panel and our kind of teal floral panel, a piece of shimmer trim, and our hexagons. So that's the configuration of pieces you should be looking for. And these cards are all pretty easy. You'll notice as we go along, there are two of each design, just with the colors, the cardstocks, the papers mixed up, but the sizes of each of the pieces are the same for each two cards. So like this one is the second one that you can see, these two pieces are reversed. The cardstock's a different color, but the sizes are all the same. So it makes it a little easier when putting them all together. Sorry, I didn't get out my large scoreboard and now I have it buried. Okay, so all of our cardstocks are 12 inches long because we added this extra little flap here. So they're all going to be scored the same way. This is an older color. It's a close to my heart color Saddle, but it's one of the older colors so that both sides are the same. It was from before they started putting the two different shades of color on the two sides. So we are going to score at 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. So basically that means it doesn't matter which side is facing up because both are the same color. Okay, and that leaves us with 1 inch and 1.25 for our flap. What I did was score the top piece just a little shorter. I'll show you in a minute here. So it's just a little bit shorter here. Normally the back panel is still 5 1/2 inches, which would be standard for our card. But if I had made this front panel also 5 1/2 inches, you might have had to worry about it not quite fitting under the flap. So I did make it a little shorter so that you wouldn't have to worry about that. And that made our flap a little bigger too, which is nice. All right. And so that's how all the cards are going to be folded tonight. And we can go ahead and we'll put our happy birthday panel on in the inside if you desire. Now I can tell you already that I am going to run out of ATG. I'm going to have to change it because you can see how low I am there. So, oops, put it in right side up. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I put all the flaps to the right. So all the insides will look the same except for the colors of the ink and the colors of the cardstock. All right, So we have our embossed panel with wood grain. This is a older embossing folder I have from a long time. I think it's a Derry's big crafting company panel or folder, embossing folder. You can put the embossing whichever direction you like better. With the design like this, it's not really, there's no really right way or wrong way. We are, however, going to put it, I'm going to put the knot at the top because you see if I put the knot, knot at the bottom, it'll be covered up by this cardstock and I kind of like it. So I want it at the top. And we're going to put an equal border around the top, bottom, and right. And that's 1/4 of an inch. Now I know a lot of times I use 1/8 of an inch, but today we're using 1/4 of an inch for this one anyway. Honestly, I made the samples of these a while ago, so I don't, it'll be a nice surprise if I've changed something up when I pull the cards out. All right. So you've got that 1/4 of an inch border at the top, the bottom, and the right. And then we're going to put our strip on. This color of cardstock was called, or is called champagne. It's another older one that is the same on both sides. And again, you're going to put, I put just slightly less than 1/4 of an inch to the left of the wood grain panel. And then we're going to put our shimmer trim in. Now the shimmer trim is the one that comes on the roll and it has adhesive on it. So the good news is it already has adhesive, but the bad news is we have to peel that backing off, which we know it'll be a challenge. Before you peel it off though, you could always check and make sure that it's the length you want it. You know, hopefully I cut everybody's, I didn't cut that, well, I didn't cut it quite straight, but the second time I cut it, I didn't cut it quite straight either. I don't know if it'll be easier if I, oh yeah, easier if I start at the point. So peel off the clear backing, and then what I'm going to do is kind of put it overlapping the champagne strip. And there we go. And if it's not quite straight at the top, which is what I should have done before, you could always just trim it off. Trim off the uneven edge once you've got it stuck down. All right, and then we'll put our wood grain panel on, and the right edge is going to go all the way to the edge of the cardstock, the flap, and about 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the embossed panel. Okay, and then this strip goes on the outside of our flap. Then all we have left are our hexagons and our sparkles. And your sparkles will all be in one envelope. Hopefully it's the envelope that goes with this card. Might be the envelope that goes with the last card. I usually try to put it in the first one unless I mix up the stacks. So we're going to cut out our hexagons, and these are pretty easy to cut since it's all straight lines. I'm just leaving an 1/8 of an inch approximate border around each side. So these didn't come with a die cut. I do have hexagon dies, but not all are the correct size to cut these out. But honestly, I think it's probably easier to cut them out because they are all straight lines than to center them on a die cut. I guess it depends on which skill you're better at. So hope everybody's doing well tonight. We just had a storm pass through. It's been windy all day because of the temperature change. They put in the fountain in our pond today, and the wind was blowing the water around like crazy. I think all the geese were scared of it. They were staying away. All right, so now we have our 3 hexagons, and we're going to put those on with foam tape. We just want to be careful with the one that goes on the flap here, because we want to make sure that the foam tape only gets put on the side that goes onto the flap, and that there's no foam tape here on the side that's exposed. All right, so that's our the one with the polka dots. And then you can see here that I cut a smaller border on these on this sample card than I just did right now. It doesn't matter what size border you want to use, but you can see 2 different sizes right here, so you can decide which one you like better. If you hadn't already figured that out for yourself. So I am just cutting some pieces of foam tape here that I can put on all my hexes. I'm going to start with the big one. And I'm going to put this in the bottom bottom left corner of the dark wood grain panel, and just about an 1/8 of an inch from the left side and to that point, and an 1/8 of an inch from up the bottom is where I positioned it. All right, and then this next hexie that has kind of all the lines going each way, which is kind of like a quilting design, very intense quilting design. I'm going to put that up towards the top of the wood grain. If I had this flap open, it'd kind of be centered, and a little more than half of the bottom is on the wood grain. And then, like I said, on this one with the polka dot, I'm only going to put my foam tape on the side that is going to be covered, that's going, that the hexagon is attaching to the flap. So that I don't see it when I open it. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and put on our sparkles. And we're just going to put 3 on the flap. There we go. Just had to get it moving there. About maybe 3/8 of an inch between each one. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to pick them up. As I've said many, many times, you could just stick these down. I just like putting the glue down as a little extra security on cards since they're going in envelopes in the mail, and this helps them stick a little better. But it's up to you. And that glue will dry clear. And that's all we've got. So really easy to put together. Now, of course, if you have to do the embossing and the stamping and the cutting, it takes a little longer, but you guys get to just have the fun part. And what was I just going to say? I don't know. The flap doesn't want to stay down. Probably if I put it down flat and put something on it for a while, it'll stay down. If you burnish it, the fold really good. All right. So the next one, like I said, is the same design, just different pieces of paper. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was going to tell you all the ink colors. So the dark brown is a chocolate ink. So both on the happy birthday and on the hexagons here. The teal colors is called Journey. And then we use champagne and saddle for the other sorry, I have some extra pieces of shimmer trim there. I'm not sure. I know I used up the end of some rolls, so that's probably why that's in there. The other cardstock are champagne, saddle, and cream. All right, so we're going to put this together the same way. Going to emboss our card. And this one is a newer color, this Journey. So we are going to have the darker color facing us this time. And we're going to score at 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. Oops. All right, and we're gonna fold and burnish. If I put all my supplies away, I would have more room on my desk here. Okay, so we're gonna fold and burnish on those score lines. Okay. And my fold, when I scored, my cardstock kind of shifted, so my score line wasn't quite straight, so I'm just fixing that and making sure everything lines up. All right. So we'll put our happy birthday panel on the inside first. And this just, whoops, gets centered on the middle panel between the score lines. Should fit perfectly in there with an 1/8 inch border all the way around all 4 sides. All right. But then on our wood grain panel here, we're going to attach it just like on the last card with a 1/4 inch border at the top, bottom, and right. Even border around those 3 sides. And then we're going to put our champagne strip on. It's a little less. I put a little less than a 1/4 inch border between those 2 pieces right there. And then we can put our shimmer trim on. Oh, last time it worked better if I got my nail under the tip. The point, rather. There we go. And I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to overlap it a bit. And then again, we have an embossed champagne panel here, and we can put, attach it whichever way you like the embossing better. And I'm putting it all the way against the edge of the right side of the panel, about 1/4 inch, whoops, up from the bottom of the panel. So looks like that. And then we'll put our wood grain strip here, different wood grain strip. On the right here, and everybody's is going to look slightly different because of the design on the paper. This dark wood grain is a close to my heart paper from a while ago. This other one is from a different company, different cardstock pack, and I can't tell you offhand what it was. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we're going to cut out our hexagons, and you can decide what size border you want around them. These I'm cutting slightly skinnier than I did on the last card, I think. Now, I do not have another stamp set available of these hexagons, but I do have a different stamp set. If you're interested, I just have to figure out where I put that one. Sorry about that. If you want some hexagons of your own. All right, so now we've got those three. And again, we're going to attach these with foam tape, but these we don't have to worry about. They're all in the middle of the card, so you don't have to worry about where you put the foam tape on the back of them. So I can go ahead and just put the foam tape on all three right now. And I need a couple more pieces. All right, I'm going to start with the big one. I'm going to put this one up here, overlapping the embossed panel a little bit. And then I will put my dots down and to the right a bit. And I'm kind of keeping those diagonal edges in line with each other. You know, the straight edge of the hexagons are in line with the top and bottom edges of the card. All right, and this one, I'm going to put just about 1/8 of an inch above the edge of that champagne panel. If I tilt it like that, you can probably see it a little better. All right. All right. And then, oh, I guess the one thing you do have to be careful, and sorry, I didn't notice this before. I did a better job on the sample card that I'm here. I'm okay, but just make sure that the hexie doesn't overlap the flap, or you might have some problems. If you do have a little bit of a problem and you didn't push down too hard on your foam tape yet, you can lift that up a little and adjust it. Just so your flap opens easily. I'm going to move my big one over just a little. Can't go too far because I was able to pull the hexie up, as you could see, and not the foam tape. So just a tad. And then we can put our sparkles on. And again, this time we're going to put them on the wood grain panel, just to switch it up a bit. Whoops. And about 1/4, 3/8 of an inch between each of them. That top one, I squeezed just a little bit too much glue on there. But I'm gonna, whoops. Well, the glue is wet. They move around a lot, but when they dry, once it dries, then that's where you get your added security. And I shifted it because I was trying to clean up this extra glue, and I should have just left well enough alone. Just using my embossing tool to wipe up some of that glue. It'll dry clear, but there we go. Just a little bit neater there. And there we go. Sorry, I think I just knocked my camera cable if you saw a little bit of a wiggle there. So those are the two cards that are similar, but each have a little bit of a different look. Okay, our next one will be another saddle brown cardstock. Looks like that. And those pieces there. All right, so we will score our cardstock. Again, doesn't matter which way is facing up, but we will score 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. Okay, so we will fold and burnish on our score lines. We'll put our happy birthday panel on the inside. Centered on the middle section. And then on the outside, we will start with our embossed champagne panel. Just picking which side I want to put down. And this will go along the bottom of the front panel of the card. You're going to have an 1/8 inch border on the left, the right, and the bottoms. So equal on those 3 edges. And then we're going to put our dark wood grain panel down. And we're going to put it so that there is 1/4 of an inch border at the top and on the right. So you see that embossed panel extends past that one on the right there. Next, we're going to put down our shimmer trim. And it should be, you're going to start, that one was easier. Okay, so you're going to line up the bottom edge with the bottom edge of your embossed panel, and you're going to be about 1/8 or so, 1/8 of an inch away from the dark wood grain panel. And it should be approximately the same height as that panel. And then we have a skinny strip of the wood grain panel. And we're going to place that the same way by lining up the bottom with the bottom of the embossed panel about 1/8 of an inch or so away from the shimmer trim. Mine's a little long, so if that bothers you, you can trim it. It's still not quite the same height, but it's close enough. Close enough in my opinion anyway. All right, and then we just have, oh, no, we have our teal paper. Again, this is another cardstock collection that is not close to my heart. I went searching for some more colors that all coordinated, but they could be sent to anybody, but a little more masculine. You know, not all floral and you know, we tend to use so many feminine kind of looking things in card making. You got to get away from that sometimes. Just see, I did use up the end of my roll of ATG. Okay, and then we can cut out our hexagons. This is a different color ink here. On this hexagon, it's cashmere. It's a lighter brown. It's darker than the champagne cardstock, but lighter than the chocolate ink. just noticing how many times I say all right. We are going to use foam tape to attach the hexagons. And like on the first card, we completed the one hexagon is going to overlap the flap only on one side. So we just have to be careful about where we put the foam tape on that hexagon. So that's this one, the teal, the journey color. So I only want it on the right side. So I'll attach that one first. And I'm going to put it pretty much middle or center, top to bottom, and a little more than half the width of the hexagon will go onto the flap. And I was good that I didn't get the foam tape showing. And these two are just going to get fully attached, so you can go ahead and put your foam tape wherever you want on these. So I'm going to put this bottom one down here. Overlap the dark wood grain panel a little bit at the top. About 1/4 of an inch away from the one on the flap. And then I'm going to put this one up here, about 1/4 inch down from the top edge of the wood grain panel, about 1/4 of an inch away from, again, the blue one there. And then I'm going to put sparkles on the left side of the card here in this little spot that doesn't have any decorative paper. I'm going to put the first dot of glue pretty much centered in that space, top to bottom and left to right. And then I will evenly space the one above it and below it about 3/8 of an inch to either side. Sorry, I'm hearing some, it's a neighbor's car. I was going to say I was hearing some strange engines and noises that seemed particularly loud. But... All right, and that is that card. Now the next one will be very similar to that, just with different colors. So we have a journey card. This is our finished card here. And all our other pieces. We are going to score this one with the dark side facing us. At 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. Fold and burnish the 2 score lines. Put our happy birthday panel on the inside of the card. Center top to bottom and left to right in the center section. That should be one of the chocolate messages, chocolate stamped messages. The first panel we'll put on is the long wood grain, dark wood grain. We're going to put it at the bottom of the card, 1/8 of an inch at the left, right, and bottom of the cardstock. Our next piece will be the embossed wood grain on the champagne cardstock. And this will have a quarter-inch border at the top. Whoops, stuck to my finger. At the top and the right side of the cardstock. 1/4 inch between the edges of the panel and the edges of the card. Next, we'll put on our shimmer trim. I honestly think this is the most challenging part of the whole process. All right, so if you recall on the last card, what we did was we lined up the bottom edge with the bottom edge of the dark wood grain panel about 1/8 of an inch or so away from the embossed panel. And then we have our skinny wood grain, which is 1/8 of an, I mean, 1/4 of an inch. So if your tape is 1/4 of an inch wide, you might have a little trouble driving your tape gun to get it straight. So I'm just going along the edges and making sure to fold that adhesive back. Alternatively, you can use a skinnier adhesive, like I have that 1/8 inch, or you can put a skinny bead of glue up the whole piece. In this case, the ATG tape is pretty pliable, so you can get it back there. And just like with the shimmer trim, we're going to line up the bottom edge along the bottom edge of the long panel and place it about 1/8 of an inch to the left of the shimmer trim the shimmer trim. And then we're going to put our medium colored wood grain panel on the flap. And this card, I have an extra little piece here. It's a piece of saddle cardstock, and you can see I put that overlapped about 3/4 of an inch on the flap, just as a little different kind of design element. All right, so I'm only going to put adhesive. I'm going to put 2 lines of adhesive on the right side of that flap on the back, and then attach it to the flap. And I'm going to put about 3/4 of an inch, but I'm going to try to get that edge like really centered, kind of centered in the middle of the flap. And it's about 1/8 of an inch below that embossed panel, or about 1/4 of an inch below the top of the medium colored wood grain panel on the flap here. I mean, the measurement is not crucial. The only thing that is crucial is not having the adhesive exposed on the back here. Otherwise, your card will stick together and then nobody can open it. All right. Does that make sense, I hope? And then I will cut out my hexagons. Again, I have the one here that I use the cashmere ink on, along with the chocolate and the journey. I honestly don't know. I mean, cashmere I kind of get. Chocolate I definitely get. Why it's called Journey. For a teal blue, I have no idea. But obviously somebody was being creative. And these all, you can have adhesive all over the back of them. No worrying about overhangs. So And we'll put the big one on, and we're going to overlap the point just a little bit over the shimmer trim. The top portion will be over the embossed panel. The chocolate one houndstooth will be on our flap here. It's going to be centered top to bottom. Whoops. And about the point should be an eighth of an inch away from the edge here, because then we're going to put our sparkles on the right side. So center top to bottom, but shift it over to the left side a bit. And then our cashmere one will go over on the left side of the card here. The bottom portion will overlap the wood grain. The tip will overlap the shimmer trim just a tiny bit. And there you go. And I'm going to put my glue on for my sparkles. I'm going to put the middle one on first, centered top to bottom, centered left to right between the point of the hexagon and the edge of the panel of cardstock. And then the bottom one is going to be centered between the first dot of glue and the bottom of the cardstock. And the top one, again, will be centered between that middle dot of glue and the top of the cardstock, which is about, they're still about 1/4 of an inch away from each other. I did a little bit better with my size of glue dots there. And that's all done. All right. Our next card is going to be another one of the Journey cardstock. This one, obviously, I switched it up a little and only did 2 hexagons. All right, I am going to score my cardstock with the darker side facing me at 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. Fold and burnish, and then put our happy birthday message on the inside. Stamp that in the chocolate ink. Centered it in the middle section. Okay. We have a large panel here of embossed cardstock that we're going to center on the front panel of the card. It will have a 1/4 inch border all the way around. And then we have a slightly smaller dark wood grain panel, which will also be centered. With a slightly bigger border on the left and right than on the top and bottom. I'm going to go ahead and put my medium wood grain on my flap. Centered on the flap. And then I can put my shimmer trim on. The shimmer trim should go about a little more than 1/8 of an inch above the bottom of the darker wood grain. Started at the folded edge of the card all the way across, and I should have cut them all a little long so that you can trim it and you can turn it over. I always turn it over because you can see the edge a little better to trim that, and trim that right in line with the edge of that cardstock, the right edge there of the front panel. All right, we've only got the 2 hexagons to cut out this time. Okay. And we don't have to worry about any edges overlapping, so we can just go ahead and put our foam tape on wherever we want on the back of our hexagons. Oops. And the larger one will go on the left side. The bottom point of it, just overlapping the shimmer trim just a tiny bit. And then the smaller one, about 1/8 of an inch away from it. about 5/8 of an inch from the top of the wood grain. The point at the bottom point is kind of at the halfway point of the side of the larger hexagon. And then we want to make sure we close our flap. I'm just going to put my ruler on there to kind of keep it down a little bit before we put our sparkles on, because we don't want sorry, I lost the top of my glue because I hadn't been screwing it all the way back on. Sorry, we want to make sure our sparkles are on, don't interfere with the edge of the flap there. So make sure the flap is closed before you add your sparkle or your glue. And I'm going to put my first dot of glue kind of centered it in the space between the hexagon and the left edge of the flap. And then kind of centered top to bottom in the middle of the hexagon. And then I'll put one about 3/8 of an inch above that and 3/8 of an inch below that. And that's that card. All right. And just one more card. And it'll be similar to that one. So this time we have the champagne colored cardstock for our base. And again, it's the same color front and back. So it doesn't matter which way it's facing you to score at 5 1/4 and 10 3/4. Let's fold and burnish on the score lines. And we have our happy birthday message. Centered on the inside of the card on the center section. The first piece that will go down on the front is our dark wood grain panel this time. And that will be centered on the front panel of the card, or the front flap. Centered top to bottom and left to right, 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And then we have our wood grain embossed panel on the champagne cardstock. And that again is centered left to right and top to bottom. And then we can put on our shimmer trim, which again should be cut a little bit long, so you can trim it to size. Of course, the last piece is going to give us issues, right? There we go. About 1/8 of an inch or so above the bottom edge of the embossed panel. Start at your folded edge. I like to start at the folded edge and cut at the cut edge so that you don't have to worry about cutting into your fold. Although you can start here and end here and cut it here, you always have to be careful that you're not cutting your fold. So it's a little safer to cut on this edge, in my experience. Okay, and then we can put our darker teal pattern paper on our small flap. Centered. And cut out the last of our hexagons. And these are all going to go on in their entirety, so you don't have to worry about where you put your foam tape. I think I cut my pieces a little smaller, so I'm going to add a couple more to that one. Okay, so our big one will go overlap the shimmer trim just a little on the left side of the embossed panel, about 1/8 of an inch from the left edge. The point will be about 1/8 of an inch from the left edge of that panel. The darker small one will go up here about, my foam tape wasn't flat there, about 1/4 of an inch, a little less than 1/4 of an inch away from the bigger one, a little less than 1/4 of an inch from the top of that embossed panel. And then this one will actually be attached a different direction. So like if it was the same direction, it would be with the straight edges, you know, top and bottom. This one I attach with the straight edges left and right, with the bottom point about 1/8 of an inch above. I'm not getting it quite straight. About 1/8 of an inch above the shimmer trim, about 1/8 of an inch away from the left side of the flap there. Make sure those are pressed down well. And then we just have to add our sparkles. And on this one, I added 5 sparkles along the entire flap there. So what I did was put a dot of glue centered top to bottom, left to right. The tip of my glue is just a little messy, so I'm going to clean that off. Okay, so in the center of the flap, top to center, top to bottom, left to right, put a dot of glue. In same vertical line, I'm going to put one about 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of the edge of that decorative paper, and another one about 3/8 of an inch down. I didn't get that quite in the right spot. From the top of the edge, and then I'm going to center the middle two between the previous dots, and that's how I space them to get them relatively evenly spaced. Now, alternatively, you could take a ruler and make pencil marks and get them evenly spaced that way, but that's a lot of extra work. And if you at all are good at eyeballing measurements, this method will hopefully work for you and be a little bit easier. And like I said, good and bad points by adding the glue, the sparkles do move around until that glue sets. So if you put it down and find that it's not quite in the right spot, you can, like that, shift it around a little bit. You've got a few seconds to do that. All right, so that is the last card. So it's probably a record for putting 6 cards together. Hopefully you enjoyed them. If you have any questions, let me know. Stay tuned for upcoming classes. I don't have anything scheduled right now, but we'll see. Thank you. You're welcome. And I will see you soon. Have a great night.